At my job exam, the interviewer laughed and said, as if we'd hire a broke kid from a single-parent home. LOL. I responded, that's a shame, then called out, hey, Dad. The interviewer wants to speak with you. The room fell silent when my father, the CEO, walked in. I wanted to work at the same bank where my father works. During my final interview, someone known as the demon instructor made it clear they looked down on me because I was from a single-parent family. They had no intention of hiring me. I was struggling to handle it, and the interview kept getting worse. At my breaking point, I pulled out my phone and called my father, who is the bank's president. My name is Emma Miller. I'm 23, a college senior, looking for a job. My parents divorced last year, and now my mom is a single mother. I stayed with her, but I've always wanted to work at the bank where my father is the CEO. The bank is the largest in the country, and I admire my father's work there. Tomorrow, I have my final interview for a job at the bank. I'm not great at studying, and when I told people I wanted to work there, they tried to stop me and made fun of me. I thought it would be over after the interview, but it was awful. One day in college, a friend named Julia asked me where I was going after graduation. I told her I wanted to work at the bank. People around us started whispering. Julia then told me, Emma, you should know your place. I was shocked that someone I considered a friend was insulting me. When I tried to defend myself, another guy said, it's impossible for you. That place is the largest bank in the country. Getting a job from this university is really tough. In the past 10 years, only one person has managed to get a job at the bank I'm applying to. I hadn't told anyone that my father is president. I didn't want to cause trouble for him, like being talked about, especially when it wasn't true. When Julia said those things, I felt everyone's eyes on me. It was painful to hear. A teacher, Miss Anderson, came over and asked what was happening. The boy from earlier said I wanted to work at North Trust Bank. The teacher looked at me and then said something shocking. Are you taking society for granted? Even the teacher, who was supposed to support students, was against my dream. No one was there to back me up. I tried to defend myself, but the teacher said I was naive. I mentioned that my father is an interviewer for North Trust Bank and that he's known as the demon interviewer. Miss Anderson, a 29-year-old teacher, seemed to react strongly. She said, if I met an interviewer with the same last name, it would likely be your father. When I answered honestly that I come from a single-parent household, Miss Anderson's smile turned sinister. At that time, I didn't understand why she was smiling so strangely. The argument ended with the ringing for the start of class. After that moment, people's attitudes toward me grew colder. My so-called friends, including Julia, and my classmates started avoiding me. It felt like they didn't want to be associated with someone they thought was foolish. Their reactions worsened as I passed each exam. The North Trust Bank hiring process had 4 stages, a written test, 2 interviews with head office staff, and finally, an interview with the top hiring manager. I wanted to work at the bank's Sun Plaza branch and had managed to pass the 3rd stage. People were shocked and worried about my progress, especially those who had looked down on me. Many of them had failed the 2nd stage of their desired company's interviews. It had been 3 months since job hunting began, and in my class, no one had a confirmed job offer. The atmosphere was filled with panic, envy, and anxiety. I couldn't handle it anymore and left the room. When I got home, my mother's comforting presence helped me. I took a break from university, and soon the day of the final interview arrived. My mother reminded me to just do my best. I left the house after her encouragement. When I arrived at the interview venue, I was taken to the waiting room. Originally, there were about 300 applicants for the Sun Plaza branch, but now only around 10 were left, and only 3 would be chosen. As I was about to close my eyes to focus, my name was called. I went in and saw 3 people in the room, Anderson, the teacher's father, a man who seemed to be the chief hiring officer, and another man, presumably responsible for keeping records, who was sitting at a computer. The interview started with Anderson asking typical questions, like a self-introduction and motivation for applying. I answered these easily until Anderson suddenly complained about female bank employees, saying they have quiet voices, are physically weak, and think being nice is enough to please people.